What the hell do we care now? Oh, the sun was shining, the champions came back to paradise, and we had a pretty on-point match preview coming into this one. And Celtic, when it's all said and done, have emerged 3-1 victors against Hibs in a very tight game. And again, Hibs, along with, maybe one or two other teams in the league, have gave us quite stiff tests. They've actually gave us some real tactical problems as well as actual, commitment and performance for the full concentration, that sort of stuff throughout the season. And this game was certainly no different. We're jumping on live today to get stuck in with this one. I've actually just got a wee bit of a glitch with some of the recording gear. So rather than recording it later on and you kind of lose a little bit of sense of the match and all the rest, I thought, let's just jump on live. We've got the notes. We've got everything we need to get stuck right into it. So we don't normally do the breakdowns live. So fist bumps to everyone that is joining us live for the recording of it, as it were. And if you're watching this after we've been live, of course, fist bump to yourself. Make sure to hit the like button, jump into the live chat or the comment section. And I want to hear about your big takeaways and any projections you might have made and left a comment on the preview for that came home to roost in the end. I see a bunch of you are here live and loud with us already in the chat. So let me know thoughts and feelings, takeaways. How did the game go for you? I actually have a lot to talk about in this one. I think starting off with the starting lineup, because the way I had to make one change from my predicted 11 to the team that actually started, and I was certain. I think a lot of us felt it was going to happen, and maybe I just let that get the better of me a little bit. That Engels wasn't going to start. Initially I thought McKeown, and then as we went through the rest of the preview, I thought maybe it's Bernardo, but it stuck with Engels. Everything was quite well as projected, except for the goalkeeper. Because I think once we got the press conference, it sounded like Schmeichel wasn't quite going to make it, but he did say he'd been in the squad, and I suppose we didn't really speak about the potential for Schmeichel to be on the bench and not feature. That's probably, when you think about that, it's never going to happen, is it? If he's in the squad, he's playing. So, yeah, not really many surprises or anything. But yeah, Sinisalo and Schmeichel and Bernardo or McKeown, depending on what part of the stream you watched, for Engels, were the only kind of misses that we had on the team. Hibs, however, we had a projected 11 and I had Hoylett in here. I kind of had a feeling it would have been somebody like Campbell or Newell, depending on who was available and who'd been playing, etc. And overall, everything we got from Hibs was as predicted, I think, for the most part. I don't think we've been offside as much anytime this season as we were today. There was plenty of space to play in, and their main, let's say route to goal or whatever was going to be turning the ball over, playing quite direct and playing quite quickly with a bit of intention. But we had a wee guard of honour from the Hibs before the game gets started. And, I thought there was a little bit of the Diego Simeone's in here in the opening kind of stages of the game, because we come out, the sun is shining, they give us a guard of honour, everything's feeling quite, festive, as it were, it's award season, the trophies are coming out, all that kind of stuff, get a wee guard of honour. And then they get the coin toss and they swap sides, and I just thought, that's a psychological wee kind of thing that they've tried to do there, totally changing up the setting, the natural kind of balance of Celtic being at home, shooting at one end for the first half and all the rest of it. And, the first 5 or 10 minutes in the game, maybe even all the way to the first 15 minutes, by the way, Hibs were, I wouldn't say they dominated the ball or were really like the better team or anything like that, but they were getting more corners. They were certainly creating some chances here and there. And, the game kind of played out the way they wanted it to. I thought they would be a bit more spread out in the first kind of 10 or 15 minutes, but we did see quite quickly that they would become a bit more of a back five. And then with the kind of the engine room midfield, let's call it, of Triantis and Levitt, they would then have Campbell kind of pressing them with big Kucherevich and Boyle. They kind of made that little box, but think about a dice, the number 5 on a dice. They kind of made that little shape in front of their back five, and that kind of really just played into the hands of us, and we really kind of played into their hands at the same time, because protecting the middle of the pitch and letting the wide areas be free, what Celtic are going to do when they get the ball in those types of situations. And that was kind of the way it went for large parts of the game. And then equally, they're well prepared to kind of counter attack and maybe try and turn the ball over, get Boyle running into space, or whatever else it might be. We can chat about their goal, because it was actually quite a well rehearsed move from them. I know there was an error from Trusty that kind of brings it about, but all the same, it was you could tell it came off the training ground in terms of its origin, its genesis, as it were. But yeah, the first little bit, I thought that was quite an interesting little psychological warfare kind of move from Hibs, winning the toss, which is unlucky in itself, before starting to flip, who's going to shoot at what side. So yeah, nice kind of little change in the tempo as well, because Hibs really needed the points in this one. They're chasing European football, and like they weren't coming here just to have a party with us or anything like that. And overall the play worked out quite well in the first period. No one made any real big mistakes or whatever. But it was quite interesting to see in this game the role and the dynamic that we had in midfield with Engels and Hatate. It did feel for the most part that Engels was being pushed a bit higher up the pitch for large periods of the game, especially in the first half. And we had Hatate doing much more of the role we've seen over the last couple of months, where he does have much more of the freedom of the pitch to kind of roam and rotate and try and get on the ball elsewhere. That's been helped by the inclusion of Taylor recently, because Taylor and McGregor kind of basing a little engine room midfield of their own here. It just gave Hatate a bit more freedom. And, it was interesting to see that, because normally in these games where like Triantis, very physical, Levitt, maybe a bit more of a doppelganger for McGregor in terms of physicality, role in the team, etc. And then Campbell, you'd think Engels would have been asked to be, in amongst this a bit more to try and bash and turn the ball over, which he was a little bit, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like a huge facet of his game. We were very much more interested in trying to pin him into big pockets of space on the outside of their kind of defensive shape. But where it kind of played into their hands is very, very often whenever we were building up out on this side here, we've got, what Celtic try and do, we always like to build these little triangles out on the right-hand side, and Hibs were just super prepared for it, because especially on the right, we didn't really do too much of this on the left, especially in the first half. But as soon as we came out here with these three, they were putting like 4 or 5 guys out here very quickly. And our players are very well managed and very well accustomed to playing in these tight spaces and getting out of a crowd. When it's 3v4, I think they're quite good at 3v4, working out the pockets, finding the extra man just on the outside of play or whatever. But particularly in the opening, let's call it like 20 minutes or so, they did very, very well. It just showing us into these little corners and then just really boxing it out and making it really difficult for us to make anything from it. And then this is the sort of space they exploited last time they were at Celtic Park, and this is the sort of thing that we're looking to try and get on the back of today, whether that was on the right-hand side or on the left, because even though Campbell's in that kind of number 5 on a dice shape for the most part, he is also kind of trapping into these little spaces and being the 5th man or being the extra player here to kind of box these positions out and make it a lot harder for us to play in when we're on this side of the pitch. Very similar kind of thing again, where they're kind of shoehorning us 5 versus 4, 5 versus 3 for the most part, and making it really hard. And this meant, like we've seen very often throughout the match, like Adam Idah, like I said, this makes Hibs sound like very defensive or whatever, but the line of 5 only really came into play for, I think, like a little period in the match before they then started to kind of skew it a little bit. It felt like Obita was like nailed onto Kuhn, so no matter where Kuhn went, he had his 1v1 straight away, and then they were always really quick to have the second man come over and make sure Kuhn was always at least 1v2, if not a little bit more crowded. But he was much more left-backy, and then Cadden on the other side here was pushed much, much higher up. Throughout this game, Hibs constantly tried to get in down their right-hand side, down our left-hand side, and we've seen that 5 at times maybe shape into a little bit of a 4, depending on, what side of the pitch they were trying to go down and any success that they were having and trying to build out play or making any sort of attacks for their own, particularly with Cadden down this side of the pitch here. But again, Hibs want to play a bit of a high line. They also, despite this guy being a left back, if they will try and push him up and take Kuhn out of a dangerous position and make him go back into an area where he's just less dangerous if he gets on the ball from a turnover of play. And then we quickly seen that kind of shape of the Hibs back 3 becoming, quite a high defensive line. And all day long, it was about trying to find Adam Idah, trying to find Dyson Maeda. And the amount of offsides we had in this game, like I mentioned before, this was probably the most offside we have been all season. But, and this was the kind of the balance of the play for like the first half of the first half. And it was very nip and tuck. And it was actually a very interesting watch tactically for a football match, because we had a wee bit of big guy, little guy. Kucherevich and Boyle both projected to start. And Kucherevich was really happy to just make sure he was smashing off of whatever fullback we had, and Boyle was just always peeling away into pockets and trying to be a bit of a nuisance, and they worked, really well as a pair. But one of the moments in the match I was most impressed with, it didn't quite lead to a goal, right? But the ball was in and around this kind of area of the pitch here, and nobody could really get their hand on it between, or their foot on the ball, between like Engels and McGregor and Dyson and whoever. And from like this area here, Hatate just kind of stepped into it and basically like wellied it, volleyed it all the way back to Schmeichel. And then within 2 passes, it goes like Schmeichel, Trusty McGregor in that usual build-up play kind of set up. And then from there, it finds itself back into Hatate. And, it's a really nice snapshot. If you see, I think in my notes, it happened around the around the 8th minute or so. When Hatate gets the ball back, so he basically fires it back to Schmeichel. Schmeichel has those little build-out passes, so centre-back midfielder finds itself back to Hatate, and then he just knows straight away that the Hibs midfield and team are moving up now because the balls went back to our goalkeeper. And as soon as Hatate gets on the ball, he just fires it down this channel here for Dyson. He fires it across the face of goal, and if Adam Idah didn't cut his toenails last night, he might have got on the end of this one. It was so close. And Idah had a hatful of chances in the first half that were so close. Some of them, like that move there, were just a little bit either the ball was a little bit ahead of him, maybe he wasn't quick enough for it, maybe there was just a little detail that was just a little bit off. But there was a few chances he had one-on-one with the keeper. He actually put in a very good cross in the first half with his left foot, Adam Idah, which surprised me because it was actually a very nicely whipped in ball. Just didn't really find anyone, but he had enough chances. He could have had a hat-trick in this one, especially in the first half. I think we all kind of felt like it was a wee bit of deja vu to the derby, where it was like he looked really hungry. And like we spoke about in the preview, this is the exact sort of game that Adam Idah wants to play. He wants to go shoulder to shoulder, holding shirts with one defender, and it's a case of strength and pace, and the ball gets played into the channel, go 1v1 with a defender, make the goalkeeper come into some awkward position and finish. And he got a lot of chances to do that. Sadly, a lot of them were offside. We only had 4 offsides recorded in the first half, but I think that flag went up about 5 or 6 times or whatever, So some of them maybe end up being goal kicks, although it was flagged offside. It felt like we were offside a lot more than what was actually recorded in the statistics afterwards. But they get their goal from a nice bit of build-up play. And the interesting thing about their goal, right, is it happened around the 24th. Let me check the exact time. Their goal came on the 25th minute, right? On the 23rd minute, I made a note. It was tangerine time, right? Now, the tangerines didn't come on the pitch, right? But the goalkeeper went down injured, and there was just some sort of break of play where everyone decided to go and have a little team talk with the coaches and get some water and whatever. And I was looking closely to see if Dyson had the tangerine. He didn't. But we had a bit of tangerine time. And I thought, right, this could be, so it was quite it was a close match, very similar to the Dundee United away one where, we didn't look bad or anything necessarily, but the game was in the balance. There wasn't too many, we hadn't scored a goal. There wasn't that many, kind of situations in the game. And you felt that little break, it might have just been I wrote it in my notes because I thought if we get deja vu from this, wouldn't that be something? But it's actually from Hibs. Their goalkeeper plays out from that dead ball situation with the break of players, and they get the ball over to the left-hand side. They kind of try and chip it in with Kucherevich over the head of Taylor and into this kind of pocket of space that they've been trying to target the entire match. And when they get that ball whipped in, there's 2-3 players playing into the box here, and they know this free kick is going into the left-hand channel. They know that the ball is going to get whipped in, and they know to be there for, I've not got the thing in front of me to tell you exactly who every one of them were, but they know that Boyle was one of them, certainly obviously because he gets onto it, but Boyle gets caught under the cross. It goes towards the back post for somebody like Campbell or Triantis, somebody like this. They knock it back in. And, this is one of the great things about rehearsing set plays, routes to goal, passages of play, phases of play, whatever you want to think of it as, because although this phase of play or this set piece is very well worked from Hibs, how they try and work it and get it into the box for a chance or whatever, it doesn't actually really come off the way they've designed it or the way they've tried to. Like Boyle gets caught under the cross. The header back here is really crap and actually goes nowhere. The centre-backs are kind of in one of those weird places in too good a position where they're actually too close to each other, and the ball gets hit at them for such a close range that, none of them have got the ability to have a first touch. It just kind of bounces off Trusty. But because Boyle is in that position for the set piece they've constructed, that's when you get bits of luck. That's when the ball bounces for you, and he's on a forward trajectory already, carries the momentum with the ball, and he gets his goal. He wheels away to celebrate with the fans, and that's what made me think maybe they knew they'd only get one goal in the first half and they wanted to celebrate with their fans, because normally if they score their only goal in the first half, they don't get to celebrate with their fans because they're at the opposite end of the stadium. But a well-worked goal for Hibs. I think Schmeichel will be raging not to get a clean sheet on his return. I think Trusty will be raging that the ball bounced off him for it. But yeah, I didn't think it was without watching, I'm doing this right after the game, as I mentioned, at the tip-off for reasons technical and whatever, so I've not had a chance to really go into the replays forensically or anything like that. But I really don't think, when a set piece is that well worked, you've got an obvious weakness and you put a really big guy on the top of it and carve an opening. Teams do that. Football's a game, of two teams, two sets of tactics. And if one team is very well prepared and get an edge because of it, it's really hard to always label that as an error on your part. Sometimes it's just, yeah, you could do better, but it's not like someone dropped the ball or let us down, if that makes sense. On that note as well, Kasper made a great couple of saves in this game, particularly in the early stages. He had a moment just like his dad, when he comes flying out to stop it. And it'd been interesting to see Sinisalo in this game. I still hold that out, that I think this game was maybe one that Sinisalo should have maybe got. Very motivated Hibs team, and yeah, it's at home and all the rest of it. Rodgers made comment to that at some point as well, where it's valuable to get away experience as a Celtic player more than home experience in some ways. But Schmeichel, it was, when he was making those saves before the goal went in, you're like, oh yes, big green clean sheet machine. Kasper Schmeichel is back in town, and aren't we going to feel his impact in this one? But yeah, from there they opened the scoring, and yeah, it wasn't perfectly executed as they'd rehearsed, but it was well enough. And then from there, they started wasting time. Martin Boyle kicks away a free kick that we've got like in this type of zone here, and it's just been a bit of a funny bugger with it. And then later on, obviously, we've got with Nicolas Kuhn, that whole thing as well, which was just a bit of time wasting and all the rest of it. They had something else as well that were just blatantly just time wasting out their Nelly. I've got it written down here, but I never wrote the second example. I forgot what it was. Arne very high, almost. Yeah, I think Engels as well. Like I say, it was very obvious in this game that he was being asked to go a lot higher. Maybe that was a little bit because of the physicality of the Hibs back three, where the frame of Engels should have just gave them an extra handful, an extra problem to deal with. And it did feel that Engels was a bit more of an attacker here, where he was maybe trying to do not the same thing as Idah, but if the ball was, in that kind of area, you'd expect a similar kind of output from him. With Kuhn being very, very wide, you were kind of seeing Engels much more in this kind of inner channel, just in this kind of inside space here, which normally like Engels sometimes will come out wide and then have an underlap and run from the fullback, or then play some sort of interesting move with Kuhn on the overlap, coming inside for a wee flick around. But it was a bit different in this sense, where Engels was very firmly in this kind of spot here. We had Kuhn much, much wider, trying to isolate people 1v1. And in terms of the equaliser, it was a great bit of play as well. And like all these balls that we were playing, the majority of them in the first half, it was either Hatate, as I gave the example for earlier on with Dyson, played it very, very well. But mainly it was Engels. And this is the thing about Engels. I hear a lot of people, I think everyone talks about Engels, right? But when I see it in group chats, I see it on the timeline on Twitter, I see it all sorts of places. Engels is a utility midfielder. He is a guy to try and do a little bit of everything. As we've seen in numerous ways in so many different instances, he's not an attacking midfielder, and he's certainly not a defensive midfielder. He is that kind of, I remember growing up, I used to really, and I still, he's my right. Okay, let's say it. I was never the biggest Iniesta fan, right? Let me just put it like that, right? And like he was great, world class, legend of the game. I get all that, right? Whenever I watched him, I was just like, there's better players out there that could play for this team, that could maybe do this. And maybe, that's a bit of a flawed POV because of the Barca team and everything they done. But I kind of think Engels is that type of player where, like, you don't see him doing much where it's like, oh yeah, he's given us the best of someone in this position that possibly could. It's more the difference you notice when they're not in the team. And we can maybe even talk about that with the subs, although Engels was left in the deep end a little bit longer than normal. But yeah, so the equaliser we get is actually one of these Engels style balls, but actually comes from Ralston, who like just picks up the ball in this kind of area here, playing out from the back, and just sweeps a lovely ball, Engels-esque, right into this channel. And Idah does a great job to take the defender with him, and then Kuhn is there just to obviously get on the end of it, who's also got a defender to fight against, by the way. before finishing it. And it was a great ball. And, you know, this is the thing Hibs give us that not a lot of teams give us, is space to play in and behind. We mentioned this on the preview that although they would be defensively compact or whatever, and we will have the majority of possession, we won't have the pitch. And that's one thing Hibs were very good at here, was controlling the size of the pitch, you know, where the space was, and ultimately, you know, what kind of chances we could make. We did spend some time like going down wide and trying to hit crosses and stuff like that, but the majority of our balls come into this central channel here, trying to get Idah between the centre backs, or could we get somebody else maybe coming forward to support to try and break through as well on occasion. And again, Hibs, it's a good POV, I would say, for a team coming to play Celtic, a defensive team. It's not just about like stopping us scoring goals by being defensive, but it's also controlling where we are on the pitch. You know, can you put it's one of the things I like about high level football tactics. You can kind of take it almost to that kind of chess ball level, where it's like, put your guy here, it forces him into different situations, and then that can create some different kind of problems. And, you know, Hibs really just bait you into that. They say, like, try and beat the trap. Go for it. We know you've got pace. You know you want to do it. Keep doing it. And the amount of times we gave the ball away for, you know, like goal kicks offsides because they just invited us on to do that. You know, there's a tip of the cap to be had here for Hibs. Make no mistake about it. And yeah, Craig, you've probably nailed it again. 2 comments on the bounce there. Fist bumps to all that are joining us, by the way. There's a bunches on Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button and check out all the content we drop out here on the channel. Match previews, breakdowns, and we've got a bit of a transfer summer scouting series that goes out every Wednesday between 5 and 6. So plenty of good content to keep up with here on the channel. And let me know your thoughts and feelings, your big takeaways, and I'll get them included in the show here as well. But yeah, great opening goal, and it was great to see Ralston, who was quite steady in it right back here. We've seen a little bit of him bombing on, but he's just not the same as Alistair Johnson. He doesn't give us that extra attacking fullback kind of mode. And on that note, by the way, I thought Taylor gave us almost next to nothing in this game. It was kind of like a tidy little midfielder in this one, but he didn't really let it, you know, spread his wings and go flying through the game and really cause much like he did on his return to the team. He kind of went stale again, you know. It's almost like he's reminded everyone he's a good player and he's happy to leave now, making sure everyone doesn't totally not hate him, you know, but whatever. And then the second goal, by the way, we've mentioned how good Hibs were, you know, just whenever we would try and get our 3 guys out here, like we normally do on whatever side of the pitch, how good they were for trying to get like 5 guys, like honestly, because we can deal 4v3, we're pretty good at that. But like I mentioned earlier, they were very, very effective at crushing the pitch over and putting 5 guys in there to make it really hard for us to play out. And I'm going to say it, the only time in the game, Kuhn gets one-on-one with someone is when we get the second goal. Kuhn gets one-on-one with his man out in this little space here, and Kuhn just gets to do Kuhn stuff. 1v1, he's going to shred most players in the league. People really need to double or treble up on him. As we've seen, beating 2 men, beating 3 men is much, much harder for him. But 1v1, he will take people to town, and he does that. Cuts a nice bit of space open. Idah knows when that ball gets played in where it's going, and he'll be able to finish it. And it's a great finish from Adam Idah for the second goal to then put us in, front at 2-1. And I think at that point in the game, I'm thinking, let's go. It's 2-1 in the first half. We maybe get a wee sub at half time, but we maybe kick on and get a few more goals, because maybe now Hibs down tools a little bit. Maybe they lose a little bit of their vigour and the game maybe just becomes a bit more of ours. This whole time, by the way, like the majority of good play that we've got, because like I'm talking about this Hibs high line, how much it benefits the likes of Idah. I've not really highlighted it, but I would go as far as to say Adam Idah as well. The number one player, obviously we just mentioned a little bit about Kuhn there, right? But the number one player that this type of match, Levitt, Triantis, Campbell, the 2 strikers here, however they're going to be fielding out and playing with Taylor, the main person that this system, this kind of situation ultimately benefits above all else is Reo Hatate, because Hatate wants to play those balls, fizzing them in behind defenders through channels for either Dysonic on here, and like we've seen time and time and again in the match, like trying to find Idah directly through the middle, as well as maybe even playing it off like angles, firing the ball into angles and then taking some space yourself and trying to get it back. Hatate loves it when there's space to run into, there's space to move the ball into. When we find Hatate to be quite ineffectual, it's normally when like a team is playing this stupid game where they go back 5, midfielders and triangle shapes in front of the back 3. And then, we hide we had a striker in here. We put these guys there, and it's like Hatate's got the ball here the whole time. And it's like, can you chip one into this narrow little zone? And that's when you don't maybe quite get as much of them out of it. But with space to play in and behind, and with pockets in space throughout the middle of the pitch here, this is dreamland for Hatate. And this is kind of also a little bit the thing that we say about what we see in Europe from him. He has more these kind of game situations to play in. And what we often say, if he was ever, and when he ever does leave Celtic, you might see in other situations when he's not in a team that gets 80% possession and the opposition just hide in their box for the full game, there's actually a pitch to play on, there's actually space to play in. You get to see much more of Hatate going box to box, front to back. And the thing about Hatate is, we know on this channel, he has been probably the most effective team player we've had for recovery defence, for build-up play. And yeah, there's maybe a wee bit of possession lost over his Celtic career for attacking balls that he plays, but it's great to see in this match that, he had the platform in the truest sense of the term to put on a show and to show his strengths and his characteristics. I'm just trying to refer to my notes on this one just to make sure. Yeah, I think kind of that's pretty much the size of it for the first half. And then when we get to half time, the second half starts off again quite similar to the first half, where they come out, they get some corners quite quickly in the game. And it's, at 2-1, it's still quite tight. They're still going to be thinking we can get back into this and they try to. But it gets scrappy. That's when we get the Kuhn instant, I think, isn't it, as well? Where it's just a little bit he tries to waste a bit of time by kicking their ball away and a little bit and whatever, and it doesn't go down too well with the Hibs players. But really, between halftime and the goal coming for us, really not much happened for me. And it was a great bit it was a lovely bit of play as well, worked out for us, and very training ground. Engels at that stage, this is exactly what we're talking about with Engels. Like most players, especially if we're thinking about an attacking midfielder, a Rogic, a Moy, an O'Reilly, anyone, Turnbull, they're taking a shot in this situation, but not Engels. Engels is that facilitator, that kind of almost, I don't want to say he's like Iniesta, but it's just because I've made that connection in my head now. I'm probably not going to be able to escape it. But that guy that's just like quietly brilliant at making the play move and being in the right place at the right time. That's exactly what he does for this assist here. He just sees where the play is going and makes sure he's in a pocket of space. And when he gets into the pocket of space, the ball falls to him. He's in no hesitation for doing the right thing for the team. He knows where his teammates are. He picks out the right man at the right time. And it's not maybe the most spectacular assist you're going to see from Arne Engels, but I think it's a nice feather in his cap, I think, for the performance he had today, which was mutedly okay. Now, the thing about Engels, I can be one of his biggest critics in general, just for I want to see more from him in terms of just actually do more in the game, not do new things or, whatever, but actually just do the things he's good at more, and let's see them become a bit more effective. And I don't think we got out of Engels what we would have wanted today. Like I said earlier, with Triantis, Campo, and even Levitt, by the way, the wee guy was given as good as he got today. It really did feel that if they wanted to play through the middle of the pitch when the ball got turned over, they were going to be allowed to. Because again, one of our primary problems is, well, especially in this shape here, because we're really allowing Engels, because he's so high, Reo's got full license to go and do whatever. And then because of the shape they had, if the ball was in their half, we would have McGregor very, very high as well. So we got into this situation again of having this big gap between defence and midfield. And again, this is space that they often played in if the ball got turned over, because we don't have that defensive midfielder. And I think when you've got like the likes of Triantis, Campbell, Levitt, quite physical midfielders, although technically very good also, it just never felt that we ever ran the midfield. Now, I know as soon as I say that, somebody will shout Reo Hatate at me, because Hatate, no one touched him today. He got on the ball, he would turn, he would glide in a bit of space, he'd move the ball on, he'd drop into a pocket, make an easy conservative pass, move himself into a better position. He individually was the best player, the best midfielder on the pitch by a long distance. But I mean, in terms of like shaping up as a team and how you're trying to direct the play, we never controlled the middle of the pitch ever. Everything that we did was maybe on the wide area of the centre pitch, if it was narrow at all. If not, we were looking to be in this type of space with Kuhn, try to dance through. Ralston's assist obviously comes from this wide pocket, breaking the offside trap. And the move that results in Hatate's goal starts off in a very similar way as well. And the way I am is like a coach and all the rest of it, like, and, football minded. Midfield for me is the most important part of the team. The centre of the pitch is the number one. Control of that is the number one hallmark of a dominant side, typically. And, we may be one of the exceptions to the rule on that one. So, quite a scrappy second half until the Hatate goal. And then from there, it's 3-1. We start to we get the triple sub from Hibs. And this was this was interesting, right? Because they did the whole kind of Aberdeen thing where they change their strikers just to rejuvenate them. So we get Kucherevich off for Bowie. And Bowie, by the way, was very impressive last time we played him and featured on the scouting series that we had on the channel. Episode 1, we go through the squad depth and quality at Celtic and what is the actual shopping list. So we put like Kieran Tierney into the depth chart and we move everything around for how the squad will look as we see it now for the summer. And in the second half of that first episode, we go around the SPFL and look at is there any domestic players that could fit the bill, a la Luke McKibben kind of style, They take off Boyle for Hoylett as well. And Bowie's much more kind of centre. It's very similar to what they did with Kucherevich and Boyle. And Hoylett is allowed to kind of peel into wide areas and pockets depending on what side of the pitch is on. And then the other change they made was they took off Idah for Cadden. And then this is them going for it a bit more. This is them then going for the game a bit more. It opens up a little bit more where they bring Obita back into the back three. They've got both the Caddens on the outside. Same setup with fresh strikers, and the midfield is the same. Once they bring on Gale for Campbell, which kind of then further resembles the sort of shape that we thought they might have started this game with 3 more attack-based players rather than midfield-based guys. And again, they're 2 goals down. They're chasing it. The points mean a lot to them. At that moment where he comes onto the pitch is where we make our double sub and we bring on. This is one of my favourite moments of the game. We bring on Bernardo for McGregor. Now, you guys who listen to this channel, I fucking love you all. I'm a big fan of everything that's out there in the Celtic fan community. And you guys know me, or I've been saying, honestly, the people that bum up Bernardo, everyone I've ever heard bum him up, talk about him being O'Reilly replacement and he's should be doing this better than Engels and blah, 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 all the rest of it. And this is the only place in town, and we've got the receipts going back his whole Celtic career at this point. We are the only place that has been consistent in our view at Celtic here that Bernardo's best position is McGregor's, is in that 6th position. He's not an attacking midfielder. He's not even really a defensive midfielder. But one of the few things we've seen from Bernardo in this game, sitting in front of the defence, is against Triantis, against Levitt, against Hoylett, if he was ever dropping into that pocket, Gale the same. Bernardo was in their face. Bernardo was stopping the ball, turning over, and he was a very good defensive midfielder. He's not quite as nimble as McGregor at patrolling that back line, but he still patrolled it well. He knows the role. He did all the right kind of passing moves that McGregor would do. But you do see with Bernardo, he's not got that line-breaking pass that McGregor has. And we see that when he plays in other positions in midfield anyway. He's not that creative of a passer. He's not that guy that will see the channel and fizz the ball in or whatever. He's a guy that if he can see a pass and it's right in front of him, he can pull it off and he'll try it. Don't get me wrong. But in this defensive role here, we didn't see any line-breaking passes from him. We didn't see him try anything that incredible. And the reason that's important for me to highlight is this is a good job that he's done. I think he's done everything to the letter that the manager's asked of him. Don't get me wrong. But Hibs are pushing this game more at this point. And if you're Bernardo coming on, you're playing for a jersey. You're playing for a starting spot. And he should be putting through the best version of his attempt at the role as possible. And I think that's what we got. So I don't think he's going to be asked to break the lines or do that sort of thing. If ever in this position, he's much more of a defensive-based centre midfielder. And I think he'd done the job very, very well. And it gave Hatate an extra little bit of license for the remaining time he was on the pitch, as well as Engels. And Bernardo's very experienced in this position. This is where he played at Benfica, coming through their academy. This is where he plays for Portugal. And we've not really seen him. Well, I think this is the 2nd time we've seen him play there for Celtic, maybe 3rd at a push. So watch out for everyone else now. Turn round over the next week or 2 and go, I've always said Bernardo should be doing this, and you can just have a wee smile and a wee nod to yourself that, no, you weren't. Nobody has been saying this. But anyway, Bernardo comes on to great effect. We get Forrest for Kuhn, which I think we all expected. There's just the Forrest must score campaign is on the go at the moment, isn't it? And yeah, he was more effective from the bench, I think, than from the start that this week compared to last week and just in general. He looked quite lively without really getting on the end of anything. They take off Levitt next for Mane. And then on the 80th minute, we make a double sub. McKeown comes on for Hatate, and McKeown looked the part, by the way. I thought McKeown was over Bernardo. A really strong shout to start this game here. He had a cracking shot that didn't quite come off from around this zone here. And he was doing a great job of, we've seen him drop back to try and get on some safe possession early on when he came onto the pitch. But he was much more effective in that kind of attacking position here and really filling in for Hatate. And that's what we all say about McKeown on this channel. He's the Scottish Reo, the Scottish Hatate. And I felt that he'd come on. Normally, the way we see Bernardo, when Bernardo comes on off the bench, he's got real purpose. Like, I'm getting back into the team. I'm going to do better than Engels. And we didn't quite get that same ferocity from Bernardo, but we got it from McKeown. I think when he came on, he was really itching to get a goal or make something happen. And Adam Idah the whole game, by the way, did not drop a beat, did he? Didn't miss a trick at all. McKeown comes on at the same time as Quinny, and I was really pleased to see Quinny coming on again for his third appearance for Celtic. I would have liked this substitution to happen a little bit earlier in the match. I get the point of leaving Idah on to try and get him another goal or something like that, but I would have liked to have seen Quinny. Quinny was very good at pressing in this game. I think Maeda quite enjoyed pressing with Quinny. We've seen some moments where they were working as a two, kind of out on this side here. Didn't quite work out for them ultimately. And Quinny, similar to Idah, is very willing to run through these channels, very direct, and does give mild. We said this on his debut. He's got a little bit of the Kyogos about him, but he got a 1v1 out here with Rocky. Or no, that was actually Ricardo. Never mind, forget that. But I think he did have a few 1v1s in any case where you can see he's maybe not quite ready for this level yet. Is maybe a harsh way of putting it. Maybe a preseason could fix that. Who knows? But in terms of application, running power, tactical awareness, all the stuff you want to see, he looked the part for a Celtic third choice striker, a prospect, whatever you want to call him. And I think we're all itching and waiting for Quinny to try and get a goal, to try and get a chance. And he was maybe close. There was one or two opportunities that didn't quite find their way to him. And then at the end of the game, we get Engels coming off for Ricardo. Now, Ricardo, so we had Brendan Rodgers' comments pre-match about youngsters getting time and him having a look at different players and all the rest of it. And when Ricardo come on, now I've seen Ricardo play Youth Champions League for Celtic in 2 starts and 1 appearance off the bench. He started against Bruges and Leipzig, and he was brilliant. He was really, really good. He's one of our better players. We won both those games, 3-2 and 1-0. And Ricardo played the Hatate role, where he was like, of the midfield 3, he was the one supporting Cummings, or what's the guy's name? Cummings, the striker everyone liked. It's away to West Ham. He was supporting him in the press the same way that Hatate does, so much more of an attack-focused midfielder. But in the games I've seen him play, it's not the same for the B team as it is the senior team, where he would just be given the ability to do that for the whole game. He's actually very good. I went through my notes, very good at build-up as well, very active. And he was one of the guys, I think against Leipzig in particular, that really covered a lot of grass and was very influential, very impactful to the result. And yeah, really good to see him get on the bench, really good to see him get his minutes in. He looked okay, but he got that 1v1 versus Rocky out here, and Rocky just wee-banned him. It was just like, I'm taking that ball off you. It's just like a man versus a boy situation. So good for him to get the measure of what's to come if he's going to make that jump, make that progression, that leap. But he didn't, really do much to write home about in this one, did he? But it was good to see him getting the debut. Good to see Rodgers now, maybe trying to, now that the league is done and everything is a formality, maybe, get Quinny those minutes, get Ricardo those minutes and do everything else that's kind of happened in this one throughout. But yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. That's my kind of instant reaction, first analysis. I've not managed to watch the game back and catch highlights, and even the manager's comments after the game I've not caught yet. So open to any feedback, especially I love feedback on the channel from people that have been at the game for these analysis videos, because whenever I'm watching it on the camera, you don't get a complete picture. Always love catching the thoughts and feelings of those that made it. And thanks very much for catching it, Strange Love the Doctor. I'd be interested to catch your comments once you've watched the game as well, since you've watched this beforehand. I do like Bernardo. He's a little bit bulky, muscle-wise, in upper body. He has to, he has AGSC tech. I didn't recognise you there because they changed the PFP profile picture, but you'll probably remember what we were saying about Bernardo. I think it was in one of the European games where he is just like a much more mobile centre-back for us, and he should find that more of a role in the team here, but it's McGregor forfeiting those minutes for him to come in there. But again, if you check out the preview, where we're chatting about starting Bernardo in here and giving McGregor this role that we've seen Engels have today, essentially. So I'm still crossing my fingers we might get that from the start, or if we need it from the bench, imagine Bernardo comes on for Engels and you get McGregor off the leash. But I don't think Rodgers is going to do that. But I would love it. And yeah, good game for Dyson, although for his standards, probably on the quiet side. The transitions in play impressed me today, Quinny. When we pass the ball at speed, not many teams can cope with us. Totally agree. But I do think Hibs gave us the ability to do that, because normally we just don't get the ability to transition like that. We don't get the chance to break through the lines because the opposition have got half their team back in their box, and we are getting the centre backs and Kasper Schmeichel to jog up to the halfway line with the ball 10 minutes into the game. So I'm with you there. We do get a great chance to see it. And that maybe comes back to a little bit of the chat we had this season of Leipzig was the peak. We don't play many teams like Hibs, I would say, to not say Leipzig, because that will give people a false idea of what I mean in terms of level or quality or whatever. But like Hibs, that try and play at a game of football. We have tactics and players. You have tactics and players. Let's go for it. We've prepared. We've watched you. We're going to try and do some stuff to give you problems. We know how you try and give us problems, and we'll do our best and let the best man win, kind of thing. But yeah, you do see it, and that it really comes out for us. And not even Rangers, by the way, because Rangers don't even play football like this. Rangers are, they're just as bad as Kilmarnock or whatever, where they'll just go and camp in their box, clearances, counter-attack, set-piece goal, That's the way for a lot of teams. But Hibs, I say full credit to them. It's a proper game of football they played us on. And, 3-1, I think it's probably a fair reflection on the amount of chances we made, because although I would say, would I say we dominated the match? I don't know. But I do think, I had it in my notes, before we scored, before we scored, Hibs were winning. But I would say the Hibs weren't in control of the match, but that's the wrong screen. Sorry, I went and go get the other one. I wouldn't say Hibs were in control of the match, but they had a degree of control in the match. Like I said before, they were quite good, actually quite clever at controlling what opportunities we were getting, where the ball was going, when we played it. They were actually not quite puppet master, but they were somewhat triggering us into situations of their making. They're deciding we're going to make you play off. We're going to try and make you play behind because we're going to give offside traps, and we're going to stretch the midfield out like this. And whatnot. But yeah, if we come on to the player ratings, new profile picture, I love it. Andy Muller. Loved Andy Muller, by the way. One of my favourite players from back in the day. So these are the player ratings. Now, the man of the match is actually, for one of the rare times here on the channel, the man of the match, the highest rated player, the headline maker, is all one player this week. It's Reo Hatate. It's got to be. And we've said this about Hatate a few times this season, where he's played this well, but he's not got his goal. He's not got his assist. And, he got 80 minutes in this one. Maybe sometimes he gets 65, and you don't quite feel the impact that he's had in the match the same way as he does when he gets 80 or 90 minutes, like we've seen quite regularly this season. But he's got a goal on top of it, and he's been clearly an incisive playmaker throughout. He's rated in at 96.3 out of 100, which is one of his best performances of the season. He's got a tackle, a clearance in here. He's won 6 duels, only lost 3. Hatate's normally get very low duel volume, and a part of that is the fact of the team just runs away from us and hides in their box. Today, Hatate was faced with people. He's dropping the shoulder. He's rolling people into pockets. He's then going on the front foot himself, making things happen. And I think the stats reflect that quite nicely. 14 possession lost off of 9 missed passes. So that's not terrible for a guy that's making the balls he's making and all that. 9 long passes into the opposition. 32 accurate passes in the final third. Very, very effective attacking output. 1 shot on target for his goal. 1 contest, which is like one of those kind of dribbles where he takes men out of the equation. A big chance created. 4 attempted assists. 5 balls into the box. 96.3 out of 100. Great performance there from little Reo. The second highest performing player on the day will make a lot of people at home smile. It was Anthony Ralston, the Bricky. He gets his assist in this game, but he did a little bit more than that. Very solid defensive performance for him as well, if I can say that tongue twister. He gave away 3 fouls, which isn't good. We'd like to see him fouled more than he fouls, obviously. 2 effective clearances, a blocked cross, and a 1 tackle. It's quite solid defensively from him. 95 accurate passes, only 8 of them were missed, and 21 of them went into the final third. 9 long balls into the opposition, which is those sort of passes like we've seen for his assist. Played 9 of them across the game here. 5 accurate long balls. They could be like maybe a switch. Maybe he passes it long to Taylor across the ground or something like that. So very good range of passing from him. 4 duels won, 3 lost. Not quite vintage Bricky in the 1v1s perhaps, but still pass marks, you would say. 1 big chance created, 4 attempted assists, 5 balls into the box. So very good shift from Anthony Ralston. And with no clean sheet, this is purely on his merit. There's no like clean sheet bonus making his score out of 100 even more stellar or whatever. Third best player on the day, probably won't surprise you, was Nicolas Kuhn with his goal and his assist in this one here. Scarface himself with the plaster on. I didn't think was really in the fold for this game before the press conference when Rodgers confirmed he was going to be in the side again. He got booked in this one, which, you know, maybe he should have. No tackles won. That's quite odd for Kuhn. He's normally quite feisty at winning the ball back. Not today. He did get an interception. 1-1 duel, lost 2. Not good by Kuhn standards, but like I mentioned before, as soon as that ball went out there for Engels, Kuhn and Ralston, they just shut us down with 5 guys and really made it almost impossible to get out of. 4 missed passes, 26 accurate passes, 17 of his 26 passes in the final third. And yeah, the rest of the stats are pretty meh. 2 shots on target, a 1 contest, like a dribble, big chance created, an attempted assist, and 4 balls into the box. You'd think with 85 out of 100, they might have been a bit more effective in the final third, but like I say, they really did a number on him of like crowding him out. And I think he done well to make the chances he did. Right behind him, actually, in 4th position, is Arnie Engels, who gets an assist in this game, as we mentioned before, with a 76.6 rating out of 100. He was fouled twice, which is good to see. He only fouled once. No tackles won or anything like that. Duels won and lost is the wrong way around. He's won 3, lost 4. No interceptions. No defensive contributions. Again, like we see from Engels, it's not a criticism. It's just to highlight there the people that are saying it could be a defensive midfielder or whatever. He doesn't do defensive stuff ever. 49 accurate passes, 26 of them into the final third. Only 1 long ball into the opposition that was successful. 3 accurate long balls. So a lot of those balls he was playing either kind of get caught by the keeper or the defender maybe went out for goal kicks, that sort of thing. With 16 possession lost. There was a lot of those balls kind of funneled out, wasn't there? That Dyson didn't get on the end of. Idah didn't get on the end of. Maybe they were offside because there was a lot of offsides as well. 1 shot on target from him. He had about 3 off target, didn't he? I think maybe 1 dribble, 1, 2 attempted assists, 13 balls into the box. And there wasn't really that many corners or anything. So I think the majority of that was well earned from open play. Right behind him, we've got Trusty on a 62. So a good return to the team from Big Austin. What did he get up to in this one? 11 clearances, 1 blocked cross, no tackles. He won 3 duels, only lost 1. So volume is very low. 1 interception, and that's kind of down to the opposition. You can't duel somebody that's not there, you know. 85 accurate passes, only 3 of them were missed. And yeah, final third penetration, not that much, but he did actually play 16 long balls into the opposition. And that's, again, those balls down to try and find Dyson, trying to find Hatate or Taylor. If he's in our half and the other player is in the opposition half, maybe past the centre circle kind of territory, trying to play those ones in. Actually quite high volume on that one. And at times, you know, our defenders still got into their half as we normally do against the teams that are super defensive. But there was stages in the game where Hibs couldn't really stop us and we still got into those spots. And then behind that, it's much of a mashing of McGregor, Scales, Taylor, and probably Idah, all kind of just come in closely. One of the best team performances we've had this season overall. If we have a glance through McGregor, does anything jump out? Again, the duel won and lost is very, very low and not the right way around. Not very much for McGregor today. Quite a quiet game by his standards. Scalesy boy, 8 clearances for him. Trusty had 11. 113 accurate passes for Scales. 12 into the final ball, into the final third. 10 long balls up the pitch. 6 accurate long balls as well. Much more of a pass master. 5 duels, 1 3 losses. Good. 1 interception. Happy to see that. 2 dribbles, 1 for Scales. Compared, he's the most effective progressor of the ball in this game, going by people, which is funny, that we've seen so far. Taylor, I'll have a quick glance through his stats. We get not a lot of tackles and duels won, by the way, guys. Very, very low. Not a high combative game, it seems. High pass completion or high pass volume for Taylor. 97 passes, 37 of them in the final third. 13 missed passes, but he won't be happy with that. A few attempted assists and that kind of thing as well. And then Idah to finish off with the outfield starting. We had 6 balls into the box, a dribble, an attempted assist. Yeah, not many duels won, 1 interception, 35 passes, 7 missed passes. Yeah, not very much for Dyson. A quietly okay performance for him in this one. And Schmeichel from the goalkeeping stakes, 3 shots saved, 3 saved from inside the box as well. 1 missed pass, 31 accurate passes, and he had some good range on some of them. So pretty good shift from him. Now, last week we'd highlighted that Bernardo made more contributions to the team than Engels. And Engels had played 65 or something, and Bernardo finished the game, played 25 or whatever. This week, Bernardo gets 17 minutes, and I can just see his score is pretty impressive for that. So I just want to see what he's actually done. 3 interceptions. Right place, right time, nose for danger, defensive spidey senses. These are the things we talk about on the channel all the time. You need to play in that position. And not one player in the team has got more than 1 interception, more than 1 tackle. And when it comes to positive duels won over duels lost, no one has done more than Bernardo has done here statistically in that 17 minutes. Only 13 accurate passes, and I think we've seen the majority of them go to Scales and Trusty, and nothing else really. So again, good shift from Bernardo. Micardo on his debut, statistically, what did he do? He had 1 ball into the box, duels won and lost, cancelled out, 8 accurate passes. He won a tackle. That's high value. So fair play to him. Johnny Kenny, will have a wee peek at that for a sec. Statistically captured basically nothing. A lot of runs that went nowhere and stuff like that. What about McKeown? He's a shot on target, of course. But yeah, duels won, upside down, no tackle, 1 tackle, no interceptions. So yeah, interesting to see on that stakes. And then for them, like, Levitt played good, it looks like. Duels won and lost, 3 interceptions for Levitt and 2 tackles. And some good passing stats around it. So Levitt had a pretty good shift. Triantis, who we've previewed and looked good in this game, by the way. 1 tackle, 1. Duels won and lost, good, and an interception. Like, that's a midfielder. Does all that stuff, as well as, wow, pass volume very low for Triantis. Barely got on the ball at all for them. So that's maybe a footnote for them. Obviously, Boyle gets their goal. And he always looks lively. Had a big chance missed as well. Could have maybe scored. Schmeichel was great, wasn't he? But yeah, let me catch up with the chat and we'll see what you guys are thinking and feeling. Hail, buddy. Do we think Kenny should get a start? I don't think the team is going to change much for Aberdeen. I think we could see like Engels for Bernardo, because I did say about the Hibs game. That's what made me go from. I started off with McKeown, and then I ended up going to Bernardo, being worried about Triantis, Campbell, those types of deep midfield runs that we've just kind of highlighted here in the video that we didn't really stop too much. Hibs did want to do. I thought maybe you start with Bernardo in that sense. I would use that same logic away to Aberdeen. You maybe do start the defensive midfielder in Bernardo over Engels, and then bring Engels into the match later on. Because I do think if we look at the game here and think about we're playing a midweek match, McGregor's definitely going to play. So he gets subbed off to be protected for the midweek. And I say protected in air quotes. Kuhn will be the same. Kuhn will start against Aberdeen. Hatate will start against Aberdeen. Idah will start against Aberdeen. And then Engels getting that all the way to that part in the match there. Again, if he dropped out for McKeown or Bernardo, my money would probably be on Bernardo at this point. I wouldn't be one bit surprised. Otherwise, then you're just getting Maeda play 90 minutes. Does he play 90 minutes again? Yeah, he probably does. But that was just a kind of interesting little detail I thought with the way the subs went. There's definitely an eye on Wednesday with McGregor coming off early, as well as Hatate. So I think they're quite nailed on again. But I think with Idah and Kenny, like, I think it's going to be 80-10, 75-15. I think it's going to be that way now for the remainder of the. Maybe he'll get more. I'd like to see Kenny get a start, but I don't think that'll be. Well, Rodgers has spoken about Vickers and AJ coming back for the St Mirren game or after the St Mirren game. And I think when you maybe get some reinforcements back in other areas of the team, we might see Kenny start. We might see Yang start again, or Forrest to get his goal, or whatever it might be. We might see some more changes from the start. Maybe an extra youth player on the bench as well. Unused subs today: Schlupp, Yang, and Naroki. So bench is starting to get a bit of quality on it, especially when these other players come back. You'll certainly feel that. I don't think there'll be many changes. Maybe 1 or 2. Goalkeeper won't change now, of course. And I think, yeah, maybe Schlupp could play. I don't think there'll be many other changes. Hibs was prepared well for us today, as usual. has been a revelation. Yeah, like you can't no give them their dues. Very good opponent. They came to play football. They played good football, and on another day they have and they could have beaten us. They could have won. Kvistgarden, if you imagine Kvistgarden as being like a more grown up version of Kenny, you can see the effect he could have, I suppose. Yeah, well, let's see. Hakan Yakin and Finn Bogason, AJSE, you're definitely the same vintage as me if you remember those rumours that went on for years upon years and went nowhere. But yeah, I'm really happy with the game. I think I had Hatate as my man of the match shout. What did I do for my score prediction? Was it 2-0 or 3? I did have us as a clean sheet. But 2-0 or 3-0 I said, so I wasn't too far away. And yeah, Aberdeen midweek, guys. So we'll be back on the channel. Today's Saturday. We'll probably be back Monday to preview Aberdeen. When is the Aberdeen game precisely? Let me double check that. But we'll be back Monday to preview that. I feel that we will. But let's see if it's a Tuesday night game or a Wednesday night game. Because that might... Let's see. Celtic, Aberdonia, the 14th, 4 days from now. It's a Wednesday. Nice. Yeah, so we'll probably be back Monday to preview Celtic Aberdeen. Thanks everyone that's tuned into this one. On Wednesday itself, by the way, we'll have the transfer scouting thing. And so Wednesday, so Monday we'll preview the game. Wednesday we'll have our transfer deadline show. Thursday we'll have the breakdown of Aberdeen. And then Friday we'll be previewing whatever's on that weekend. I've not went that far ahead to check St Mirren. So it'll be a busy week here on the Celtic Star here. If you've enjoyed the video, if you do enjoy the content, please do hit the subscribe button, of course, as well. And get your comments in. I'll try and get some of them up on screen. Great performance today. Some nice passing. Link up play. Good pressing. Throw in the hard graft also. Well played, troops. Cheers, Quinny. Thanks very much, John McKinley. Well, it depends what you're thinking about there in terms of what they do and what you're thinking. I do like Trusty. Yeah, Trusty's fine. Like, as you know, AJSC and the long-standing viewers on the channel is like, I don't hate other players or anything. I just think everyone thinks it's so easy to get a better player than Scales. And it isn't. It's actually quite hard and pretty expensive. Thanks very much for the kind words, Craig. Of course, I really appreciate all the support here on the channel. We need to have Idah, Maeda, and Kuhn and McGregor all fit for the cup. Yeah, I think we'll probably see that rotation pattern quite consistent, David. I make you quite right there. I was actually of the mind that I thought we might have just changed the entire front three when it went to 3-1 and just take all three of them off and put on Yang as well. But Yang doesn't come on and we get McCardle minutes. I thought that was quite nice from the manager to do that in terms of the club philosophy, the bleeding of youngsters, the progression of the team and the youth prospects and whatever. So quite enjoyed that. Yeah, like I think he's done fine overall. Like it is the thing with Trusty Engels Idah is they've never played as much as they ever have this season. They've never played Champions League football, and it's not, maybe not with Trusty, but with Idah and Engels, international football's not been something that's been in their diet very often before this year, if ever, really, for Engels especially. And it's easy. It's not even an excuse. It's just a reality. Like they will only get better because they'll be acclimatized. They'll lift the bar. They'll gain consistency at a new kind of plateau, and then that's where progression starts to happen at an individual level. And hopefully, then that kind of permeates, and the team gets better overall because better players are more in sync with one another. Yada yada. I've had great fun doing this live. If you've enjoyed it coming to you live, then let me know. And the way you let me know is by hitting the like button, guys. You guys don't care about this because you're not on YouTube, right? And it's just sad buggers like me, right? But the more people hit the like button, the more YouTube shows the content to more Celtic fans. And the more Jungle Gyms we can get to join in on the content on the channel, the more fun we can have in the live chat, the more fire that will be in the comment sections. And ultimately, hopefully, the better the content we can bring to you, of course, as well. If you're watching this after we've been live on screen, then there will be some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Please do hit the subscribe button as well, guys. It really does mean a lot. If you're in the live chat, when the video ends, the comment section opens up, and feel free to leave any comments as well if you've been watching after we've been live, of course, as well. Hail, hail. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and moan the hoops.